The internet has connected more people than at any point in human history. So why do we seem to understand each other less? All that and more in today's episode of the Zero Dot Podcast.
A podcast for the quietly overwhelmed and the cautiously hopeful. When our chips are down and resources are low, that's when we are our most powerful. Defenders of truth, powerful together at zero. Welcome to Team Human. This is the Zero Dot Podcast.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, boys and girls, everyone of all ages. I am your host, Sam Kirk. You know Daniel Prattley. He's in the background making sure that everything is running smoothly on our end. Our producer and editor extraordinaire, John Merrick, who's usually with us, is taking a little bit of a sabbatical as he deals with battles in Johnland. We expect to see him back here in June. So, folks, as it stands, I feel alone. I feel like there's no one here with me. But I have a secret to tell you. All day in the studio, I've heard voices percolating in the background. And I wonder, if we're quiet enough, will you hear those same voices?
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
You heard it, right? You heard it, right?
Pay no mind to the voices beyond the wall.
Ah! That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I am appointed. I am honored with not one, but two guests here on the Zero Dot Podcast. We have our dear friend, Robert Rostant, our dear friend, Patreon support member, the man with literally no limits, green tea enjoyer, and student of exploration. Hey, Rob, how you doing?
Hi there. Sam, I mentioned this earlier, but I have not to brag, I've had a lot scheduled in today, and I've always been told, I've had people tell me my entire life, you can't make everybody happy. Today, I'm making everybody happy.
Hell yeah, brother. That's right. We make everyone happy on those days, right?
Please do it sustainably, dear listener.
Sustainably, of course. Don't burn yourself out, all that good stuff. But choose your battles, and sometimes you can do that. Well, that's awesome, Robert. And then, of course, I have my good friend David, our command grab enthusiast, Patreon supporter, compliance manager dealing with life sciences and healthcare, and just overall a very good friend. How you doing, David?
Doing well, Sam. Good to see you as well, Robert.
Yeah, you
hello,
too, Dave.
everyone.
I have known Dave by his internet handle and by his lovely photo on Fightcade, which you can't look at that smile and not be happy. It's hard to do.
Yeah,
The dimples, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
David and Robert are very good friends of the podcast, good friends of us all around, and they just happen to be some of the kindest people I know, which is why our subject today about empathy, a very key fundamental pillar here at the Zero Dot Podcast. I couldn't think of two other people I'd rather talk about that topic, especially in the digital age. But before we get into that, I think it's important we give ourselves some good news, gentlemen. What do you think? Some good news?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I think I could use some good news. So,
Always.
this is coming up a couple weeks old, but I think it's still good news here. Researchers at the University of British Columbia have developed an innovative fruit wash designed to improve food safety and reduce waste. Think about that. How many times have you gone to the produce section? I know I have. I get an apple, an orange, a pineapple, a mango even. It's not quite ripe yet because you don't want it ripe yet. You want to just buy it and use it later. And then what, like a day, 2 days later, suddenly your fruit has gone rotten. I don't know what it is. I do whatever I do, and no matter what, it just never keeps. Well, it turns out the researchers at UBC have developed a new solution that's made from a mixture of starch, tannic acid, and iron. Key features and benefits of this solution include, while rinsing with tap water only removes about 40% of pesticide residue, this new solution can remove nearly 90% by bonding with the pesticides to lift them off the fruit's surface. That's kind of wild. In addition, helps keep produce fresher for longer. For example, it can extend the shelf life of grapes at room temperature from 1 week without the wash to 2 weeks with the wash. That's kind of amazing. And on top of that, the cost is about 3 cents per apple. So it's a very cheap, cost-effective way to make our produce last a little bit longer. UBC researchers are working on ways to reduce those costs even further for mass production and future commercialization. Other products in the market do remove pesticides or extend freshness, but this appears to be one of the greatest breakthroughs in produce preservation as we know it, especially we all know this because food is just costly. It just costs so much money. So wouldn't it be nice if I bought fruit knowing it's not going to die on me? I don't know about you, Robert and David, but I'm always buying frozen fruit because I'm such a black thumb when it comes to fruit. Like I get fruit, it's going to be nice, and before I know it, it's gone rotten.
See, I would be buying fruit in more preserved ways, and I'm really happy to hear about this. But I'm the kind of person who my fruit barely lasts like a day or two. I eat something ridiculous like 4 or 5 apples a day. And so
Impressive.
It just because I like that fiber. So yeah, but this honestly, I was really happy when I heard about this because like I'm gonna get less chance of getting sick from eating so many apples.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. And, I wish I was like you. I try to eat a lot of fruit. The problem is fruit can be expensive where I'm at. So
yeah,
I want to save it for a while. And then, of course, me saving it means it starts going bad very quickly. You'll notice that I get bananas and they're a little green when I get them. And I'll wait a day or two and then they start going and I start like eating tons of bananas every single day so I don't lose any bananas. But yeah, for sure. I love fruit. I'm a big fan of it. Fun fact for podcasting. Apples especially are great for getting rid of mouth sounds, unwanted mouth sounds. Eat an apple right beforehand, you get that sound. It reduces it significantly. So apples are great. Big fan. Big fan.
I should get another one during my next break, my 5th of the day.
So what's your favorite type of apple?
So I'm very basic. I like Granny Smith and Red Delicious. No, not Red Delicious. Pink Lady. That's it.
Pink Ladies are good. Red Delicious. Not Red Delicious. What'd you
Granny
say?
Smith. Granny Smith.
Granny Smiths are great. What about you, David? What's your favorite apple?
Well, Granny Smith's pretty good. And I don't know if the green apples get quite as many names as the red apples, but those can be pretty good as well. I feel like they're more consistent.
That's true. Yeah.
I think the red apples hit higher highs, but can also have lower lows.
That is true.
And green apple, I feel like, is a little more.
Yeah, it's got that consistency. And like, I guess I wonder if it's like red catches people's eye. And like, as you say, if it has high highs and low lows, they got to give it a cool name to stand out from the rest.
I'm not a big fan of Red Delicious. When you mentioned that first, I was like, whoa. But Red Delicious has a weird, bitter, kind of watery taste that I'm not the biggest fan of.
That's kind of a bit mushy for me as well, I find.
I will say, this is where I get real basic. In terms of consistency, in terms of when I get it from the grocery store, I know exactly what it's going to taste like. Macintosh apples, the tiny little ones. Those always
never had a Macintosh apple.
They're a little sweet.
Yeah.
Are they
smaller,
named
tiny.
They named after the computer or before?
Other way.
Other way around. Yeah, other way around.
I don't know if we
decided to
get
name
them
it
in
that.
the UK. We might. I'm just not the most observant in the supermarket. So
yeah, let us know if you ever see them. Again, not the best apple. I think apples can vary, especially. But Macintosh, if I'm looking to save a couple bucks and I see Macintosh is available in a big bundle, I'll grab those usually. So
okay, I'm writing this down alongside Pro Street Fighter 1 player Damdai on my piece of paper.
Robert is a notorious note taker in the best way possible.
On my,
were you a note taker in school, David? Were you a note taker?
Oh,
Or were
yeah.
you someone who just osmosis absorbed everything?
No, I was a note taker, especially in college, because the act of writing it down actually helped me retain
Exactly.
the information. So
I'm the
I was
same
a
way.
very big note taker.
Yeah, I would hardly ever look at my notes, maybe glance at them, but it was just the act of writing it down, slowing me down, getting me to like digest what they were saying really helped quite a bit, for sure.
I also felt there's something satisfying when you've written like 2 pages of notes and you look back and you're like, oh, you know what? I actually remember a lot of that. It's nice.
Yeah. Well,
Like
that's
for me,
some good
when I
news.
went to college, it was early 2000s, so like laptops were not all over the place, tablets
Yeah,
were not
that's
all over
true.
the place. So it was all handwritten notes for the most part.
I
Occasionally, if it was a complicated subject, a tape recorder as well.
Well, that's cool. I started writing notes in laptop at uni, and I found I would just end up going to like an emulator or something. So I actually left my computer at home and just started writing handwritten notes, and that helped a lot.
Yeah, I definitely had a Sega emulator on my laptop playing Sonic 2 during certain bus rides. Yeah, for sure.
I was playing Shin Megami Tensei on my laptop in a lecture once, and I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of doing things analog and manually as much as you can. It slows you down, makes you digest it a bit more. We'll get into why that's really important in the digital age, but good stuff all around. I'm a little bit younger than David, but like in my time when I was in college, and for my UK people, that's uni, but for us, it was called college. I know it's confusing. That was like the advent of iPads. And I'll never forget, there was a bunch of students in a lecture hall who had an iPad, who were using it for, I guess, school. And I was such a ignorant person, still am actually. And I'm like, oh, cool, that's a neat supercomputer tablet device. Does it replace your computer? He says, no, of course not. Oh, then why do you have it? Because to me in my head, if it doesn't replace the computer, what's the point, right? Well, eventually we would. Now we have supercomputers in our pockets. We have mobile devices, everything. The computers in our pockets are what, like 100 million times more powerful than the Apple IIgs in the 80s. I mean, it's just insane.
They are too powerful. I mean, I'd look at the YouTube videos. I think you were talking about this actually in the past. You talked about people that try to ridiculously simplify technology, but then releasing technology is kind of redundant. And I was watching like a thing for like a mobile phone that uses kind of e-ink and can barely do anything. And I'm like, I like this, but it's kind of dumb. It's like
absolutely. Now, dumb things can be fun, but
that's why I liked it. But
yeah, my big thing on that episode, if you remember, is like where you're inventing a thing that has already existed, and that thing was very, very, very cheap, and now you're making it a premium $500,000 product. Come on.
Like I actually saw this with an iPad that used e-ink. And was like, it couldn't look at books. It couldn't do anything else. It could just write or draw. And I was like, that's a cool idea. It's not a $700 cool idea, but maybe for 200 or 100.
How are we going to feed the billionaires? The billionaires are going to starve if we don't buy those things.
I mean, they won't even be able to eat the paper that was.
They won't, because there's no paper. Jeez Louise.
Similar note, I saw the other day a typewriter that had an e-ink screen on it, and it actually looked interesting before I stepped myself back to reality. I was like, there's no reason I'm going to ever pay $600 for something like this. It had onboard storage for retaining the electronic information and everything else like that. I don't think there was a natural way to print from it.
That was
was that the free write typewriter?
It may have been. I'd have to look again. Like it was late at night, so like I'd have to look and see what it was.
David, as a fellow writer, you and I have the same tickle of like, oh, that's neat, that's cool, that's whatever. But then after all, wait a minute, hold on, this is silly.
This is absolute nonsense. It looks cool, but
exactly.
No. Put the wallet away.
It's really funny, actually. You should say this because
Robert has stepped away.
Wait, I got this when I was in Japan.
What is this for our audio listeners?
Got a very funny picture of my friends kissing me in a photo booth there. But you open it. It's a distraction-free keyboard.
Nice.
But it actually, you have to use like USB to put things on it. Now, I love this, except for the fact the quotation marks are Japanese quotation marks. So you cannot write in English on it, and it's kind of pointless. But the form factor, like it's pretty much indestructible, and the battery lasts for like something like, I don't know, 80 hours.
Wow.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with that.
Those were all the rage in the like late aughts, early 90s, or no, late 90s, I suppose.
So, Sam, I remember in the episode you posted the one that you had, which was the keyboard. We actually had those in my school.
Right.
Like, they were something you could use in school to type. If you like, I remember like one of my friends broke their arm and they were given one to type with, and they're really cool.
It's like a $20 thing, or maybe $40 max.
Yeah,
but no, let's go ahead and go to that free write thing and pay $800 for that fancy schmancy thing because it looks like a typewriter, right?
And like, I get
it almost got me. So
it almost got me.
Typewriters are cool. That's the.
I could just buy a typewriter.
You could. You could. That's
and get
true.
that cool clackety sound. Yeah.
That is true. That's true. Well, folks, that's been some good news about Fruit Wash. But hey, there's some more good news, especially here in the United States for my good friend Robert and those in the UK. A couple of weeks ago, there was a school shooting, or there would have been a school shooting had it not been from the valiant efforts of Pauls Valley Principal. Principal Kirk Moore stopped an armed suspect at Pauls Valley High School in an event that's actually you can watch on YouTube right now if you want to watch it. It's a pretty miraculous thing. The student walks in, literally starts pointing a gun, and within seconds, the principal steps in, stops the gunman, the young student, from shooting anyone. He himself gets shot in the process, but saves. It's often believed. I mean, it's argued saved countless lives as a result of that thing, and we celebrate that.
Yeah, you can't predict like how many. Like I watched the clip and I was incredibly moved by how fast he acted, and like when watching it, like it although you can't really hear what's going on, his body language at first suggests that he's ready to just have a talk, and he picks the right moment and he acts. Is he okay at the moment? Like
he is okay, and in fact, part of the story is that he was honored during a community event organized by 2 local churches to celebrate his heroism and the fact that no lives were lost. The event, held at a park in Pauls Valley, featured live worship music and was organized by the House Church and Trinity Baptist Church in his honor. He is okay.
That's
he was
nice.
shot, but he's all right.
I'm really glad to hear that he's all right. And he's a hero.
He really is. And when interviewed about the topic, he said, I just knew I was just running to get to whatever was going on. He tells CBS News, he said, I think it was just instinct. You know, in 37 years, you go through trainings and drills and what you should do, and that all goes out the window, he says. I'm glad it worked out the way that it did. And he says, I think God's hand was on all of us, but I can't explain why it happened the way that it did. And if I might interject just a bit, it might not have been God's hand. It was just the human nature in all of us to protect everyone else. So we love hearing those stories. Rob, in the United States, we have a serious problem with gun violence.
Of course,
everywhere,
yeah.
in schools.
It's really sad to hear.
We didn't learn the memo you guys have learned long time ago. We're still very protective of our gun rights at the chagrin of many, many, many things. So I was happy to hear good people doing the good thing, doing the good fight. And if I may, I will elect our good friend Kirk Moore as our Zero Dot Person of the Week. So thank you, Kirk, for all that you're doing.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
I've always had this, like, when writing, and I know you guys love writing as well. I have the idea that you can't predict. The only way you can know of a person's character is what they do under duress and stressful situations. And like he didn't know what to do, but he did it. And that tells me a lot about his character, you know?
Yeah. He closed the distance between himself and the shooter. That's the most important thing. Risking his own life, but he saved everyone else. That's huge. That's massive, for sure. I mean, David and I were in the era of the Columbine shootings. That was pretty huge. And and unfortunately, we didn't want to do any kind of regulation on gun violence or gun holding. Instead, we blamed video games. It's all video
movies
games
and music. Yep.
I guess like was Doom, like I think they've found Doom on one of their computers, and it's like, surprise, Doom was on probably almost every 16 to 30 something computer back then, you know.
I had it on PlayStation.
the PlayStation one, obviously far less corruptible as a result.
I mean, I'll never forget. There was an old, I guess it's old now. To me, it was new at the time. Penn and Teller, the magicians, they had a show on HBO called Bullshit. And one of their episodes was called Gun Control. And the argument was like, hey, you know, the idea that exposure to violent media makes you desensitized to real violence, they tried to challenge that. Now, very unscientifically, they just took one kid who loved first-person shooter games, loved shooting people, just loved it, but never touched a gun in his life. And with permission from the parents in a very controlled environment, gave him access to a rifle to shoot at a target, to shoot at a can of beans or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And you see the kid, he's really excited. He's just super happy. Like, he loves violent video games. Think they're so cool. And the parents are kind of worried that he's just developing into this Sociopath. They give the kid in a controlled environment a firearm. There's a specialist and a safety officer there to watch it happen. The kid pulls the trigger once, and the jolt of the rifle hitting his body, it doesn't even make the target. The kid is so shocked by that, he starts crying in a very emotional way.
Yeah.
He runs to his mother and his parents, and he wants nothing to do with guns after that point.
Yeah.
And, you know,
that's amazing.
it's kind of it's only one case and it's one person's experience, but Penn and Teller was trying to explain, like, look, no, this media that we have does not make you desensitized to violence, because real violence, is far different from the stuff you see on TV, in video games, and all other stuff.
It's because of there's the recoil and how scary and noisy it is. It must have terrified him. How old was the kid?
Let's find out. Let's do that together. Let's see.
I'm gonna guess about 10.
Yeah, that like I'm like, when, like, if there's a kid, I'm like, oh, they're a kid. It's just like this amalgamation of ages. I'm like, whatever.
Child, it seemed like preteen of some kind. That's my memory. But I'll never forget, like, and, you know, that echoes my own sentiment about violence. You know, my own personal take is I'll never own a firearm. I have no interest in them. But I play lots of violent video games, and I think they're fine. And to my father's credit, one time he showed me footage that he had on a VHS, like archival footage of someone actually dying, like actually getting shot, and what that looks and how it feels. A little traumatic, but it looks nothing like real life. It looks nothing like how we see in the media, right? In the media, you watch something hyper violent, there's an explosion, guts are everywhere, blood, you know, all that or whatever stuff. In real life, it's like you see the life literally leave them. They slump to the floor. Like, it is like you're literally seeing life die, and that is not the same thing. So it obviously, when it's a person, you could, like, when it's a person versus a representation of a person, is very different. Yeah, and the rules of, like, cinema dictates a certain wind-up, a certain action, a certain explosion, kineticism, and however you want to artistically make that work out is fine. But in real life, that's not what you see. It's like instant. Like, with a gun, it's like instant.
And they want you to empathize with the character doing it. They don't want you to, like, if the character is like, okay, let's go, after they see someone slump down and, like, someone actually died, they're not going to look good on screen, are they?
No, they're not. And also, like, I want you to be empathetic to all the characters inside. And video games have to slow things down, and movies have to slow things down to make you follow what's happening. And again, that's not real life. Real life violence is instant. It's like they are dead, they're gone. But yeah, I remember that time. I know David remembers that time, and us. Like, it was just a weird place to be, because I enjoyed violent video games, still do, and literally being told, if you keep ingesting this, you're going to become a sociopath, like what happened here in Columbine. And we know that's not true, but during that era, it was like video game fever. Watch out, guys! Watch out.
Yeah, that must have been like, and also it's like the idea that you can't even buy a video game without being judged. Probably acted quite heavy on you. Honestly, it sounds like an awful time in general. Was excuse my ignorance, was Columbine the first high-profile school shooting, or was?
I would say so, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, so that happened in 1999. So that was close to me finishing high school. So, like, the way schools run now in the U.S., where they do these shooting drills and things of that nature, I never went through most of that. So, like,
was that
I
a scary time to be in high school for you, Dave?
It was, because, like, it happened in another high school with, like, people that you recognize some of the archetypes that a lot of students fall into, and, like, you could see parallels in some groups of students as everybody's trying to discover their identities and who they want to be and their friend groups and all that type of stuff. So it's easy to see parallels and have those types of concerns, but, like, it was just more shock that something like that had happened at a school.
Like that's something like that could even happen, and that, like, again, in terms of shocking news, that was that was post 9/11, right? Wasn't it? So, pre 9/11. It's not pre. Sorry, I meant pre. But
you can imagine a couple of years later, 9/11 happens, and, like, everyone's at a fever pitch level of anxiety.
It was like, So before I know Columbine is an isolated incident. Before that, was there like any kind of anxieties building up in general in America? Um, or was it
Not
just
in
something?
particular. Not around like gun violence or anything else like that.
Yeah,
It was something you saw in movies and TV shows and stuff like that, video games, which I think is where a lot of that focus ended up going into. But
yeah,
the United States as a whole has a long storied history of picking a medium that is popular with young people, going back to music, to movies, to comic books. Like there's a long storied history there of
I, it,
picking a scapegoat, I'll say.
that doesn't just happen in America. Look, I don't know any of the details because like it's something I heard once, and like the details are so grisly I don't really want to remember them. But there was someone in the 80s, a serial killer in Japan, who did some horrible things. Did some absolutely horrible things. They found like that he had visual novel dating games in on his computer, and they were there was like a whole thing that if someone's an otaku, they're a nerd, there's something wrong with them, they could hurt someone, and that stereotype lasted for a very long time up until the late 2000s, where being a otaku was kind of seen as less stigmatized in Japan. It's really interesting,
Okay.
but it's really upsetting, like the stuff the guy did, and like it upsets me to have like someone try and connect like someone like that to like a, a relatively, I mean, I say relatively innocent hobby because like there are stuff in like in dating games in older ones that was very problematic, but it's still, it's like you don't
Yeah.
connect that to that.
Yeah. I mean, what was interesting about Columbine is I have to look at the data myself, but like if a kid brought a firearm into the school, it was a kid that didn't know any better, or they forgot that it was in their bag, or they were really nervous and scared about it and they got caught, or, maybe it was an isolated incident. But the Columbine was two kids they had a plan. They
Yeah,
executed that plan. They were like, they had mapped out what they were going to do, how they were going to approach it. Like everything was calculated. They've been thinking about this for a long, long, long time. And I believe one of they had made a custom map in Doom that mirrored the school itself to help them plan this even
yeah,
better. Like that's kind of
wow,
where it all got intertwined and messy.
yeah. Oh wow, yeah. That's again though, it's kind of like, oh, at the same time they must have written stuff down on paper, and it's like, oh, if someone uses a notepad and pen, they're going to do something bad. Like,
Yeah.
reload that
Watch
pen,
out, Redders! You're being watched now.
Watch out.
Well, we are, but still, yeah.
Yeah.
That fountain pen could unleash a fountain of gore,
Sure. Yeah. 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 I mean, uh, every responsible gun owner that I know is pro more regulations, pro getting more steps in place. That way, not anyone can just grab a gun. Right now in the
Yeah,
United States, the steps you have to go through to get a gun is significantly far less than other things. Like you have to go through
yeah.
more tests to get a driver's license than you do to get a firearm. Like it's kind of insane here in the United
It's
States.
probably a lot harder to play Dragon Quest X online in America than it is to buy a gun.
Absolutely,
It is.
100%.
Like, I mean, I personally put more effort into getting access to Dragon Quest X than I did like in most of my exams when I was in school. So
Yeah. So, I mean, and I'm sure there's a lot of ways in which people on the UK side are envious of the Americas. But let me tell you, for those of us, and I don't want to speak for David, but I know for myself, I'm envious of the UK and some of the regulation in that space. Like,
yeah,
that would be nice.
Now,
Any country that has some kind of reasonable approach to this, because the U.S. approach has not been reasonable for quite some time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm just so sorry for like the amount of lives lost and lives destroyed as a result of this. It's just like, as someone who's worked in a school before, very, very upsetting. It's and I just hear like from friends who have kids, I hear from friends who have kids on Discord in America. They're like, there was another school shooting today. I was terrified, and I'm like, oh, my heart goes out to you. Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm glad that it was safe, but I'm so sorry that you even heard the word school shooting today.
Yeah. I mean, what was it, like 2023? It was like we were getting school shootings every couple months. We became so desensitized to it. It's like, yep, there's another one. It's awful. What's happening?
I wonder if it's like, I wonder if it's just like, when people are so tired of something.
That's it. Just you're so exhausted, tired. You see it every day. You're just like, you just become numb.
It's kind of beating you down. Yeah. It's an awful feeling. And, it must be terrible to see these things happen. But it's just like, I'm so glad that there are heroes in the world, like that head teacher,
Absolutely. So once again, thank you, Kirk Moore, for your valiant efforts. I'm sorry you had to put your life on the line, but the world is a better place for it. So thank you.
And I'm glad you've made a recovery,
Hey, listen. Sorry to interrupt your really busy day of listening to this fantastic podcast. But if you're listening to this right now, where I think you're listening to, that means you're not a member of Club Zero Dot. To be a member of that, just go to patreon.com/zero.media to go and watch our extended versions of all of our episodes here at the Zero Dot Podcast. For only $3.99, you get access to extended versions of our episodes that launch 2 days earlier than how they do normally, as in they come in on Mondays, not Wednesdays. You get lovely access to the creators themselves of the Zero Dot Podcast. You get an opportunity to reach out to the podcast creators themselves, and they will feature your questions on the podcast, plus sneak peeks into extra cool, awesome things that the podcast makers are making. That's right. Sam, John, and Daniel have other things in the works, and you'll be the first one to find that out. You can only find that out, though, if you're a member for $3.99 or your regional equivalent at patreon.com/zero.media. Come be a member today and find out what all the fuss is all about. All right. Well, enough waffling about that. Let's talk about our main topic. Today, I wanted to bring my two friends, Robert and David, together. I want to talk about empathy. Now, we've talked about empathy a lot on the Zero Dot Podcast, one of my favorite things in the world. I think it's the most powerful force that we have as human beings to bring us together. But today I want to focus specifically on how we navigate the shores of empathy when it comes to online discourse, online spaces, all that good stuff. I'm talking Reddit. I'm talking Discord, I'm talking social media, I'm talking comment sections, I'm talking gaming spaces, gaming lobbies, of which Robert, David, and myself have a bit of experience on, and why it feels harder than ever to actually understand each other in these particular spaces. To kind of set the stage for us, when I think about the internet, it's a really common thing for people to believe that, well, because it's the internet, because we're chronically online, the internet just makes people less human, makes us less want to be a human being. And I disagree with that sentiment quite a bit. I don't think the internet makes people less human. Rather, I think it makes it easier to forget that there's a human on the other side because of all the things that are missing, right? Usernames obfuscate what your real name might be, including your faces, which, by the way, is not the same thing as what user privacy laws that the UK and other places are trying to do. That's a totally different thing, right? But I'm saying just it's obfuscated, right? No body language. There's a lack of tone. In fact, this episode is being broadcast to our listeners right now. In the eternal war versus the video watchers versus listeners, I don't know, the listeners might be winning right now. You have no idea that Robert is holding a plushie of Hulk smashing through Spider-Man's Daily Bugle building. Just kidding. Right? There's no pauses anymore. There's constant feed of information. In fact, any pauses, any disruptions of feed of information is seen as a glitch in many cases. And as a result, people are just becoming more abstractions in that regard. Online, we encounter opinions before we encounter humanity, which is funny because all human beings have opinions just like they have assholes. Yet still, that does not make us the human beings that we are. So let me ask you, David and Robert, do you think people are actually meaner online, just generally speaking? That's just what happens?
So before I get into that, I it's interesting that a phrase popped to mind when you were saying about how lots of things are missing. I would say internet communication is kind of modal humanity. You've got a few modes, and a few modes are missing.
Okay.
And I guess when certain modes cannot be seen, and you just get someone's opinion, it's very easy for people on the internet to lash out at that person and be angry at the opinion.
Yeah.
It's something like, I mean, in the fighting game space, it's very exhausting. It's tiring. It happens a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And in the fighting game space, back in the day that I was in and David was in, when it was in person, there was no such thing as online. If you were going to lash out at someone, which happened a bit, there was a lot of bullying. You had to go through the first layer of, I'm lashing out at you and you could punch me back for it, right?
Yeah,
you could attack me. Like, I'm going through a layer of obfuscation here to get to this, and I'm taking the risk on that. Now there's no risk. It's just I can say whatever I want, and you can't do anything about it, right?
And especially with on Reddit, it's you could have a username, but that's still not like, that's still nothing really. But people could even just go in and just make a new account easily. It's wild.
Yeah, yeah. I was talking to someone, Robert, you and I both know, who's in a space that you and I are both in, and we were on an online, we were in a gaming lobby, and they were talking about being excited for the new RoboCop game that just came out, and they were going to be playing it and live streaming it on their Twitch channel. I bumped into this guy 6 months later in a different lobby, and I say, "Hey, how's RoboCop going? You said you were really excited to play that." And you know what he said? He says, "How do you know that? How do you know I was excited to play that?" I'm like, "Well, I remember you said it. You said you were excited to play it. I'm curious to hear." Says, and he was weirded out by the fact that I paid attention to what he said, and that I was circling back to it as if I was interested.
Yeah.
Like, that weirded out to him because we only know each other online, and he just assumed he was talking into the void and no one was listening.
Yeah,
And that was strange.
I would have been so happy if someone like had been like, "You looking forward to RoboCop?" And I'm like, you know, like, but I wonder if this person has had people not remember what they've said more often
Probably.
than not.
Maybe.
One thing both of you are really good at remembering stuff people have said online. And I see a lot of people online that kind of repeat the same stuff.
Over and over and over and over.
Yeah, and like I'm like, dude, I remember all of this.
Yeah.
But I wonder if I don't know if they've been belittled in the past or are just unable to conceive that people are actually seeing what they're saying. It's sad.
Well, does online discourse kind of propagate the idea that, hey, let's not give ourselves a moment for context. Let's not look back to see what was said before. It's only the here, the now. Here it is in front of your face. Keep scrolling, keep going. Do we think that's a part of it?
So one of the things, there's that. And I also think people want to, I think people want to judge an opinion before they sit with it. I'm guilty of that sometimes too. Like I you know, like making snap judgments about like games and stuff. I love it when I'm wrong about something. It's very refreshing.
Yeah. People are more reactionary, right? People are more, I see a thing and let me react to it right away. For sure. What about you, David? When I say that, hey, are people just meaner online? Is there a root cause you can bring it to?
I think I want to say yes in general, but I think it's more specific to where there are larger audiences. I think the larger the audience, or the larger the platform, or the larger number of people in a particular setting, so like social media, we're saying endless scrolling. So let's use. I've been on X or Twitter for years now. Ever since
Good for you.
Yeah,
a lot of that
same.
occurred. But
That's
like
good.
the content is always there. You can keep scrolling, and there's always going to be something else there. I think that the broader the field, essentially, the more likely you're going to get a lot of that negativity, that dehumanizing component, that's reactionary component. I'm very particular in the spaces I choose to engage with, especially online these days, and have been for quite some time. So they tend to be smaller groups, more focused, maybe a streamer that's, with a couple of exceptions, doesn't have a whole lot of people watching them constantly, that type of thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I do.
And that tends to be where you get a lot more natural conversation, people engaging with each other, and less of that reactionary component.
So you're
At
sensitive to
least
the
from what
idea of
I've seen.
scale, right? If it scales up too high, then that's just a natural thing that happens. So let's keep the scale small. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and if it's
Yeah.
a large enough news or a large enough surprise or a large enough deal, then it gets removed from the individual or the person or the group or
Sure.
that is affected by the actual event.
Yeah.
And then that's where it gets out of control.
Yeah.
It becomes, and also, so I found on social media, sometimes people worry. I haven't been on Twitter for a long time, but in the past, even I have gone through this thought process. Sometimes people worry that if people do not see them speak out about something, that they're going to assume that they agree with the thing if it's something that's bad, or they're going to assume they disagree with the good thing. Like I sometimes, when, like, you notice when a celebrity has died and people on Twitter are sad about it, and there's lots of replies. I tend to not write anything, and sometimes I tended to not write anything, and sometimes I would think, do people think I don't care that this person died? And it's a weird thought. I'm so glad I'm off of Twitter, because obviously, as you can hear, it did not do healthy things for me. It's
Twitter, also known as X.com, but we will just refer to it as Twitter because that is what it is. Is certainly a platform that propagates a certain kind of reactionary tendency. And you just said it. If you don't react, then you feel like you're not doing your job in the ecosystem of what that incentivizes. For sure.
But as Dave mentions, it kind of, the bigger it is, the less individual factors factor in, and it becomes more of a hive mind, right? It's
yeah.
It's wild. The thing about the bigger something gets, have either of you guys gone into a Twitch chat for a popular streamer?
Sure.
To just
to
see.
Yeah.
Have you noticed how, like, fast it scrolls down, and, like, some of the comments are so mean? Like, people will be pointing out the streamer's appearance for no reason. They will be talking about, like, oh, this game's shit, why is he playing this game? And, like, they'll be giving, like, needless, unasked for, unwarranted, rude feedback. And I'm like, if you go to a smaller chat, people are like, hello, how are you?
Yeah.
Very much.
That actually scares a lot of people off. There's a friend of ours that Robert and I know. Her handle name, she goes by the name of Sweet Bree. She's now getting into the realm of Twitch streaming, and she was talking to me a bit beforehand about, hey, I don't know if I should do it. I'm not very good at video games. I kind of want to do it, but what if people make fun of me? And I said, here's your advice. Go fucking do it. Go fucking do it. Let me know when you're streaming. I'll be your first person on. And she streamed it. It was great. And she has a wholesome community now, a small, like David was saying, a small, wholesome group of people that are into it. None of those negative comments. But, like, even if she did, like, fuck them. That's my endorsement. Fuck them.
Yeah, exactly. And also one of the, I know it's hard if you're on your own streaming, but it's if you're in a smaller community and someone's being an asshole, it's much easier to see who that person is and block them straight away. Whereas if it's
when
a
you get
big
bombarded,
scrolling,
right? Yeah, and bots and all of the stuff, and you have to hire someone who's like looking at the chat for you to block that stuff. And sometimes you have to get like a software that does it, and sometimes it's not right. Man, that whole thing's it's crazy.
Sometimes I like. Sometimes people will even spend money so that they would get their chat highlighted, and they'll say something rude, and it's like, what the hell? You paid for that.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
That's rough. The few people that I do watch that have larger environments, I feel like are pretty good about keeping their environments and their chats and their community positive. And I think that is something where it's rewarding. And, like, it's one of the reasons why I watch some of those larger streamers, because they have that positive environment. Because, like, if it was a negative environment, on YouTube, I can ignore the chat, the comments, whatever. Like, that's easy to ignore. On Twitch, it's a little more inherent in the platform, so it's a little harder to ignore. It's just constantly always there. If I needed to, I could ignore it, but like more likely than not, if that type of environment is being fostered or not addressed, um, I'm unlikely to even engage with it and watch it
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah, that's right. I mean, one of the things I watch the streamer Northern Lion a lot. He's very entertaining. He's got quite a big audience. If someone says something rude to him, he will pause the stream, talk to them, and like he usually riffs on it and like kind of like pokes fun at them, but he's also like that's not acceptable and just bans them and kind of like I'm like yeah like giving that time to like address it and push a boundary and just say no, we're not pushing boundaries today, guys. I like that. It's it just makes me feel like it's a healthy thing to do, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think good stuff all around. And I think we agree. It's like there's a systemic flaw here that just propagates this. And again, it's fantastic when Twitch streamers, when people can overcome it, and there are skills in doing that. But it's also unfortunate that we have to overcome these things because I think in some ways it's harder than if you're face to face, right? I was recently just coming across the work of someone by the name of Sherry Turkle. Sherry Turkle, who is an American sociologist. She's the Abby Rockefeller Mause Professor of the Social Studies of Science and Technology at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. She has a BA in Social Studies and later a PhD in Sociology and personality psychology at Harvard University. She focuses her research on psychoanalysis and human technology interaction. And she's written many, many, many books about the impacts of the brain and technology and the interfaces that we deal with. These books include The Second Self, Computers and the Human Spirit, Alone Together, Why We Expect More from Technology and Less from Each Other, and Life on the Screen, where she discusses how emerging technologies, specifically computers, affect the way we think and we see ourselves as humans, especially if we're looking at a screen all the time. Her research is really interesting. She talks about how assuming different personalities in like a computer fantasy game can be therapeutic, like MMOs and so forth. At the same time, there's problems that arise when using that as a modality for our primary sense of communication. There's a lot of issues in terms of where your identity might come from and how you interface with that. And really, she focuses a lot on psychological and societal impact of relational artifacts as social robots and how these and other technologies are changing attitudes about human life and living things in general. Specifically, one result may be the devaluation of authentic experience in a relationship in and of itself. And that's one of the side effects as a result of being in these constantly online kind of interfaces and so forth. So I'm calling her out right now because that's just the tip of the iceberg with her research, but it seems like she's diving into this quite a bit. She's won a lot of awards for that. I'm recommending people check out her work, especially the one she wrote in 2011, Alone Together, Why We Expect More from Technology and Less from Each Other. And I think it's a systemic issue, and I wonder what we can possibly do about it. But as I think about this stuff, I'm thinking about what Dr. John Suhler had said. He coined a term called the online disinhibition effect. You guys ever hear about that term?
Is it something to do with like is it related to anonymity online and how that makes us less likely to self-censor?
Exactly. It's basically the phenomenon that people tend to feel safer saying things online than they would not say in real life because they have the ability to remain completely anonymous and invisible when on websites, social media, etc. And as a result, free from potential consequences such as physical harm and other punishments, which we just talked about, right? But speaking about what you're talking about, Robert, about that particular phenomenon, this effect literally allows people, it propagates people being more reactive online, less patient. They get information and they feel the need. There's no ramifications for me to pause and listen and think about this and consider it. I'm just going to react right now. You can't hurt me. You can't fight me. So it makes us harsher and makes us more certain of certain outcomes when we would normally not be, because digital spaces remove the emotional consequence. And that's what Dr. John Suhler had been talking about. A common analogy is it's easier to throw rocks at silhouettes, right? Because no one's going to bleed when you throw it at like a silhouette or a shadow of that kind, which then takes us to like gaming, Discord, Reddit, and all that other stuff. You see it a lot. Discord pylons when someone has a quote unquote wrong opinion and people start shouting at them. Reddit outrage spirals that just go on forever. Quote tweets. Quote tweets are everywhere. Again, David's not on Twitter anymore. Neither am I, but it's a big thing to quote tweet. And
remember quote tweets and quotes of quote tweets. And oh God, it's a whole It's a whole mess.
And it's part of the engagement that they're looking for as well. Like you see somebody post like a bad opinion or a bad take on something, and they don't care that they're getting quote tweeted because to them it's engagement. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's a lot of where Twitter has veered into.
Yeah.
And also like sorry, 1 second, I'm just going to turn on the light, but I don't know why I decided to do that when I started talking. But I've noticed that there's a lot of irony and insincerity. When I was on Twitter like 4 or 5 years ago, there was a lot of irony and insincerity, and it's a defense mechanism, I believe, that I'm seeing more of on Discord, especially bigger Discords. And like I know there was like that kind of edgelord humor in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think that's coming back. I worry that it might be coming back to a larger extent on online spaces like Discord and Reddit. I'm seeing a lot of it.
It might be.
Depending on the social media, I don't think it ever went away.
Yeah. Again, I think it went away just because I've been in probably like such nicer spaces. But even in some nicer spaces, I do see like I see irony and like not irony. I see people being ironic, and people being slightly edgier, and it's like it kind of makes me wonder. It's like there's no need for this all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame them for doing that because the system's in place. You get likes, you get shares, people quote tweet, you get the emojis underneath things. It sends dopamine to your brain. It makes you feel good. Yeah. And if that's how the system rewards you, then how are you going to keep navigating that system? You're going to navigate in a system that rewards your reaction, your speediness, your cleverness, your funniness, your ability to get that response, and not a system that rewards reflection, pause, and as we say, empathy. So I don't blame it. It's just that seems like that's what the system's geared towards. Do you have a question that you want Sam, John, or Daniel to answer on the Zero Dot Podcast? Well, drop them a line at questions@thezerodotpodcast.com or go to the zerodotpodcast.com website to drop them a line right there and then. Any questions submitted might be used for a potential episode for the Zero Dot Podcast. Feel free to put your information in there as much as you'd like, whether it's about issues of life, struggling with empathy, workforce challenges, relationship challenges, mental health, you name it. Sam, John, and Daniel will be happy to discuss those on future episodes. But that can only be done if you go ahead and drop them a line at either questions@thezerodotpodcast.com or go to the zerodotpodcast.com website and drop them a line right there. Cheers.
I'm the kind of person that I want to, if I'm talking to someone, I want to give them a reply straight away. And I found sometimes whenever I've actively told them, hey, I'm going to consider that and get back to you, and I thought it out, I've given a more thoughtful response and just felt better about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like sometimes you just need to put things on pause. Whereas if I'm quite an emotional guy. I react to things quite quickly. When I do that, I always change my mind in the end.
Sure. We were just talking about this before we started recording, but like I'm seeing it now in the workplace where you get a nasty email and you should respond to it. But like you're emotionally charged. So what do? You take a walk, you take a break. You know what? Let me respond to it in the morning when I've slept on it. No. Yeah. Commerce has decided we can't wait for you to do that. So go ahead and just feed your response is into AI, and AI will make it softer for you. And that will give the quote unquote performative empathy that you need. So we can keep moving and keep performing. Right. And that's crazy to me because that means that we're only allowing ourselves to emotionally regulate ourselves when we start thinking that there's a performance or an audience watching. That's a whole other level of my mind just blows like.
Yeah, there's a lot of levels to that. And I wonder, like, I think there's something uncanny about AI responses. I think deep down, even if we don't consciously know it's AI, something knows that something's up. I think that's more likely to piss off the person on the other end. Like, there's something about that. Yeah,
I mean, here's the thing about the human brain. if you've played with AI in any capacity, I know David has, or Rob, I'm sure you've done it every once in a while.
Yeah.
You give it something, spits it back, and it does something. It says, great idea, Rob. Oh, great thinking, Dave. It compliments you, gives you esteem, and even like it kind of speaks a language that it's like it understands you. And unfortunate thing about the human brain is, even though we know it's not real, our brain does like it. We do it when it gives it that little message of something, even though it feels fake. The good news
Not
is,
if
though,
you recognize that it's the brown-nosing piece of shit that it actually is.
Yeah, definitely. I like sometimes like I've messed with it before, and like it was like I was into Final Fantasy 14, and I was joking, a little gross joke, but I was joking about should I get a chamber pot so I could continue playing Final Fantasy 14 uninterrupted, and it said I should, and like at first it was like, please consider the hygienic costs, or like this and this. However, it would be convenient and it would save you time. And then at the end it said, happy adventuring, hero of light. And I'm like, this is so stupid. And then my friend was like, it takes 3 bottles of water every time he does that. And I'm like, I'm so sorry.
yeah, the environmental cost is crazy. Just absolutely insane.
I'm not messing with this again.
Yeah. But I mean,
just do what they did before AI and poop sockets. That's what South Park taught me. There you go.
Thank you, Warrior of Light.
Exactly.
That's a great call. I am also saying that human beings are really good at detecting patterns, and we're getting better at understanding what AI can look and feel like. Like 4 years ago, if I got a response that was AI generated in the way that it is now, I'd be like, oh, wow, that was a really well-crafted, hand-responded AI. But we've seen it enough times now, we go, that's AI. That looks like AI. Which on one hand, I appreciate the human brain for being able to do that. On the other hand, maybe David can relate to this, I hate the fact that hyphens have been weaponized against us.
Oh, God.
You got to be careful with the hyphens. You got to be careful with the double hyphens. You got to be careful with the M dots. I like that as a writing tool, but now I got to be careful because if I use too much of it, it's going to sound like it's AI. I hate it.
I found myself using hyphens in reply to people. And I'm like, uh-oh. No.
Also,
if AI starts to use ellipses, I am going to throw a fit.
Yeah, right. Also, like, it's not this, it's this every single time. It's like, come on.
Yeah, it's and as well, it does the kind of if it's telling you, if it's like opposing your idea, it will use the shit sandwich, and it's like, no, this is bad when humans do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess my question is, like, what do we do? Again, in the context of empathy, because just to remind our listeners and viewers, empathy is, in my opinion, one of the greatest tools we have as human beings. And there's a lot of different versions of it. And this empathy is different from sympathy. But at the crux, there's 3 components to empathy. It's recognizing feelings of the other person. If it's not immediately obvious in the context, connecting that to some kind of root cause or connection or circumstance. And then the most important part, which again, online spaces do not do well. They just don't have a good mechanism for it. Pausing and listening. Right? So it's like, hey, it sounds like you're feeling blank because of blank. Pause and listen. And that's a human thing. That's what people respond to. And there's an interchange of ideas. And when the systems are stacked against us, how do we give the system empathy? How do we fight back a little bit? What do you think, guys?
So I think I found before that I was talking to a really good friend, one of my best friends, and
not me.
Yeah, you are also one of my best friends, but it wasn't you in this situation. And I think he mentioned something about not liking a movie because he thought it was too political. And my thought process was like, I was like, man, I think everything's political. And that's what I said. I said, to be fair, I think it's hard to make something that isn't political. What I think I should have said was, oh, why does it bother you? Maybe it might have touched on something that really upset him. I should have asked, I think. And this is something I'm going to keep in mind for the future. But it's like, why does my opinion matter there? Like, I want to get to the bottom of why it bothers my friend. And like, I honestly, I think personally, I believe that movies shouldn't shy away from politics, but at the same time, I have been in this. Have you ever been in a situation where you're really enjoying a piece of media, and you suddenly realize it's propaganda for something really bad?
Yeah, yeah. And I think some people use the word political in place of propaganda. That's what they actually mean. But yeah. I've been there.
I was watching sorry to hijack and talk about anime, but I was watching an anime.
Japanese animes.
Have you guys heard of the anime ranking of kings?
Yes,
I have not.
Have you seen it?
I saw the first season, and I liked it a lot.
I liked it a lot too. However, there is something that made me very uncomfortable in it. When I did a bit of research, it really you wouldn't. I didn't catch this. You probably wouldn't have caught this. It presents an allegory for Korean refugees during World War II in Japan, and it's very uncomfortable when it does that. Basically, it represents there's another culture in the show, and they like the character says this culture did not appreciate kindness, and they end up killing one of the characters. They are living in huts, which eerily, if you look at the photo, it's eerily 1-to-1 with Korean refugee camps in Japan. And also like the king who is who has accepted these refugees says, "Oh, they're actually they're actually doing quite prosperously," which is an actual quote from a Japanese politician aimed at this. And like, I was really upset by it because it's such a beautiful show with lots of really like empathy and good feeling, and it's like, but you don't have empathy there. It's like, and sorry to bring it up because it's a good show, and I was really disillusioned by it when I found this. I was very upset by this.
And is it intentional as far as you're aware?
I mean,
if the pieces are there, the pieces are there, right? But I'm just
the pieces are there.
Okay.
And as well, it like they never humanize that tribe of people. In fact, one character just kills them all in a rage, and is never mentioned again. Now, I might be getting some facts wrong about like the time and place, but I saw a picture and it was very related to Korean refugee camps in Japan. And it might have not been World War II. That was my assumption, but I was like, man, I loved this anime, but this is just too much.
It could be unintentional also. Like, it could be an environment that's the creators of I'm not sure if it came from a manga or if it was just an anime, but it could be something that they grew up with and maybe didn't have the underlying understanding of.
Yeah, it could also
they may be calling
case...
back on things or elements that they're aware of and that they see. Because I know that the show, from what I remember, it's been a few years, but from what I remember, they do touch on a number of things as far as like the main character has a couple of disabilities.
Yeah,
and, like,
which it did such like as a person with disabilities, I was so touched by that and that aspect of it. And there's a lot of empathy that goes into the show. And you know, it could have been a thing that he picked up a history book, like he wasn't really thinking about it. He was like, oh, this would make an interesting setting, but there's a lot of uncomfortable parallels there.
There are. I mean, part of that, if it's the people that I think it is in the show, like the main character, the protagonist, befriends somebody from that race as well. So they show a lot of atrocities occurring to those people, but also shows like the budding of a friendship and relationship with across that divide.
Yeah, I think.
Or maybe I'm misremembering which.
Like, I think it's the people in the village that tortured that character, and they basically like mutilated the character. It's gross thing to talk about but like, and I think like they were all killed by the king. I don't know if they appear again in the series.
They may not. I can see the parallels there, but
and I might be misremembering stuff as well. But like, I I do get that though. I'm like, oh, why is that in there? Like maybe something like that bothered my friend who didn't want the film to have politics in it.
Yeah.
And like I did him a disservice by like kind of assuming what he meant instead of asking him what bothered him.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a great call. And Robert, I've always appreciated your vulnerability and honesty and authenticity there.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, that was my idea here. We got to stop to ask questions more. Like ask the exploratory questions from a place of curiosity. You know, I love your humility there. I'm the same way, by the way. I think everything is political, and that's okay. And in fact, I think the greatest crime ever was being told you can't talk about religion, you can't talk about sex, you can't talk about how much you get paid, you can't talk about politics. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
If we talked about it, we'd all know things. And if we knew things, we could talk about the issues together, which is what we talk about here at Zero Dot. So I understand the lens of trying to not be political in your entertainment and whatever. I just don't think it's feasible or possible. But
and like I could completely understand someone comes in from a hard day. Reality is hard, and you just want to see like something cool happen, you know. And like I'm also able to look. I think that's the part of the story is honestly inexcusable in Ranking of Kings. I still think it's a fantastic show, and like the fact it presents disability in such a moving way. The main character it cannot speak or hear, and that's his biggest strength. Well, biggest strength is his heart, but like, you know, it's a lovely show, but unfortunately that whole backstory thing wasn't even necessary in the first place. I don't think the story would work really well without it, but but yeah, again, it was originally a manga. I don't know how much influence was the writer or the subject matter. I haven't seen the manga, but yeah, it's just but again, I don't want to be a bummer because it was a really good anime.
You're not a bummer.
Like,
no, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Because since we brought it up, I know David. He has a journalism degree, and he's all about, you know, proliferation of knowledge. How do you feel when someone says, "Hey, I don't like it because it got too political"? What are your thoughts on that?
So I think similarly to you both, where I think everything is political. It's just a matter of, so if we take any kind of work or writing that is being created, those are formed by an individual or a group of people, and those people have their own political leanings. They grew up in, no matter what kind of politics and the world is in, and there's some level of politicalness in it. So very much of the mind that everything is political if you look deeply enough into it. I forgot where I was going with that, but
no, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's and I guess like I wonder if people just get, like, I know real world politics are so tiring at the moment. Maybe there's an element of I don't want to see real world politics because it tires me out. Whereas if it's space fantasy politics, that's all cool. Like, but a lot of the time, I would argue these space fantasy politics are usually allegories for real politics. Like,
yes.
I mean, look, Mobile Suit Gundam is an anime about refugees and a land dispute between two different forces. I'm like, okay, this is pretty current, and like it always has been, and like even a lot of these superhero comics, for example, they're political as hell. The original Superman is just like he's doing, like, he's sorting out corrupt politicians and ending wars left, right, and center. It's like
one of the greatest radio dramas was when he takes out the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, come on.
Yes. I haven't heard that, but I've been meaning to read the comic.
It's a great comic.
Of it,
great comic, yeah.
And beautiful art style as well. And it's just you know, it's that wholesome, real. That's what Superman represents. He represents the best parts of you and me, you know.
Yeah, I think there's a danger though when we escape too much into, let's say, art, fantasy, creative arts, and we really remove ourselves from politics. You know, there's a character in comic book fiction that I'm quite fond of, But any person who's like a really big super fan of this one particular character for quote unquote the wrong reasons, I question myself and I go, are you understanding who this character is? And the character I'm talking about is the Punisher.
My God, yes,
The
yes.
Punisher, really awesome, cool character. He works when the villains are just so atrocious that whatever he does isn't nearly that bad. And it's very cathartic and all that stuff. But like, I used to live across the street from a gentleman who had Punisher decals, Punisher flags all over his house. He had a Punisher truck. And I've talked to this individual. I've talked to people like him who just, they revealed to me like they wish they could be the Punisher. I'm like, no, that's not the story. That's not what you're supposed to take away from that story.
Even the Punisher doesn't like
Right.
being the Punisher. He the person who hates himself who hates himself the most is the Punisher. Like it's. But yeah, like I will say one positive about the Punisher, he does a good job of writing about his feelings in his journal.
He does. Nice. In the War Journal. Absolutely he does. Yeah.
It's nice. He may frame it in a manly war journal way, but he's doing it. He's processing his feelings. It's interesting.
There was an
And
era
for all the listeners out there, if you want to do a journal, just call it a war journal.
Just call it a war journal. There you go. Oh, great takeaway. Absolutely.
Yeah. As you can see, my war journal has characters from Earthbound Mother 2.
Earthbound. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's the Hobonichi. Nothing war about this. I love it.
There was David might remember this. There was a period in the Marvel comics during like the Onslaught era, where so Professor X and Magneto merged, or they merged into this mega onslaught, and it was like the Age of Apocalypse / Onslaught, whatever.
The last boss in Marvel vs. Capcom, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. During a very small mini arc of that era, one of the Punisher comics had a mini story where Punisher Frank Castle loses his memory, and he wakes up in a church, and he's wearing like priest clothing. And so he thinks he's a priest, and he thinks that's what he's supposed to do, but he's trying to reconcile the fact, like, why am I so good at like being hyper violent, and why am I so good at like doing this, and I have a pull towards this direction. It was a fun like maybe 3-issue arc that had with that character, to see Frank Castle, no memory, be forced to be the opposite of what he's supposed to be. And like it was a good question of like nature versus nurture and all that other stuff. And of course he gets his memory back and he becomes good old Frank Castle again. But like during that couple of issues, it was kind of fun to explore that. But like if the Punisher is your role model, I don't know what to say to you, buddy. I don't know.
Take a long, hard look at why.
Yeah.
And maybe give yourself a little bit of self-care, but maybe write
in your war journal.
Write in your war journal, right? Like, process those feelings.
Yeah. But again, talking back to what Rob was saying about asking those clarifying questions, and specifically trying to avoid the why question, right? Because why questions kind of put someone on the defensive. Why are you doing it this way? Why is that your response? Instead of being like...
And again, I did also think of a why question to clarify it. And it would something like, what makes you feel this way is, or like, maybe that might be a bit on the spot. How would you ask the question, Sam?
Oh yeah, what do you mean by that? That's it.
Yeah. Hey, I like that.
What do you mean by it being too political? If that's it. I don't understand. Let me know. Clue me in. Paint me a picture. I'm not seeing what you're seeing, right?
Yeah.
And I can tell you a little bit more. And oftentimes, I'm sure we see this in online discourse. When you ask them that question, they don't know how to articulate it, and then in them kind of breaking down, not being able to articulate it, they trail off sometimes. Which is again going back to that whole problem of like people feeling the need to express and react, but they don't know why. They don't know where it's coming from.
And I wonder if like a good question there would be like, did something in this particular film upset you or make you feel bad?
Maybe.
Might be good. Like, but
I think that could be a follow-up, like understanding like what I think understanding what they're viewing as political, and their viewpoints of it is like the fundamental question to see what they are thinking of and how it's making them feel, and then you can expand from there. You can also take the Metal Gear Solid approach and just ask what they said as a question back to them. Political
discourse.
Third
see what comes up
ventilation
after that.
shaft.
It's the political message is on the back of the box.
What do you think of the geopolitical ramifications of this hegemony we're in right now? $5 words right there. So I like that a lot, but I don't want to close off with the idea that the internet is bad and online spaces are bad. So let me ask you both before we start wrapping things up. What's one thing you think online spaces get right? All of them. Reddit, Twitter, Discord, gaming lobbies. What do you get right?
Hyper-specific spreading of joy about something.
Yeah.
Like, whenever there is a thing, there are another 5 people that, like, there are at least 5 other people in the world that absolutely love that thing. Like, that character that, like for example, Nekoyama is a side character in the American football manga I Showed 21, who barely does anything. He's like a member of the team you see in like 2 panels in like 30 books. There's probably people, Nekoyama's their favorite character. And there's probably at least 5 people that think this. And you can find those 5 people on the internet. Any hobby, the joy of Fightcade. If yes, there's probably only one other person or like 2 other people within connection distance to me that want to play King of Fighters 96, and they are going to do infinites on me 11 times in a row. But I can find those people and I have a good time. It's nice to see. Let them flex the infinite on me. They deserve it.
That makes me think of, that's a great call. Like, just spread your joy and people will find it, right? There's a Blue Sky account called the Quest 64 official account.
Whoa, Quest 64.
So
nice.
This account, this guy just loves Quest 64. And for those of you that are listening in and don't know what this is a video game from the N64 that I wish no disrespect to anyone who loves this particular game, but it's not a great game. It was the first RPG on the N64. We all bought it because we thought it was going to be great. It was a video game.
It's definitely not Dragon Quest 8.
Right. It is not that, right? But this guy is such a fan of Quest 64. If you go to his Blue Sky account, it says the only account dedicated to letting people know what's fresh and new in the world of Nintendo 64 and Quest 64. I love it. A game that has not changed in 20 plus years. This gentleman posts every single day something about Quest 64. And folks, has 25.7 thousand followers on this account.
I love this. I like that. There are probably, like, I can imagine you are, just picture this. You're 8 years old. Your friends are going on about Final Fantasy VII, but you have an N64, and your parents maybe can't afford to get too many games. They get a Quest 64. It's the only thing you have. You're going to play that a lot, and even if you think it sucks, you're going to love something about it. And I love that, like, hyper specific scenario. There's so many people like that, and it's great. It's a beautiful thing, and like there's I don't use Reddit very often because
you value yourself. I understand.
it's very tiring. One Reddit I love to go on is r/fightsticks, where people are just showing pictures of their fight
arcade
sticks.
stick porn.
Their arcade, it's people talking about their arcade sticks, talking about buttons they like, talking about what games they like to test it on. It's a beautiful place, and I mean, occasionally you get a little bit of negativity. It's very rare though, and people are like, "Hey, don't be mean to them. They're posting something cool." Like,
yeah, for realsies.
It's a lovely place.
I'll have to check that out. I would say, just the one thing I think they're getting right for the most part is connecting people across the globe. We're seeing that challenge now, unfortunately, with a lot of countries or states deploying ID requirements in order to access certain sites and things of that nature. So that's terrible. If you can help it, try not to have to do that. VPNs for now exist. I know there's talks of regulations to try and limit those as well. But just being able to see people connect across the world around similar interests, similar ideas, stumbling into something or a piece of news or whatever it may be, I think is one of the strongest points around social media
I
and
would
sites.
not have met you two, like two people very dear to me, if I didn't have Discord. And like,
That's true.
honestly, like I could I yeah so many brilliant, wonderful experiences with you guys. I remember Smacketh was like, let's play KOF, and I'm like, which one? Is like, yes, and we just ended up playing like KOF 94 up until 98, and just had so much joy. And Scare, I remember that time we played Street Fighter Hyper Fighting. We played 50 games, and I liked Street Fighter 2 before. I really appreciate Street Fighter 2 thanks to you, and it's like, but we've had so much joy together, and like I've shared the good times and the bad times with you, and like you're always there to lend an ear or to give some kind words, and it's like I it would suck if I didn't have you two in my life.
Aw. Yeah, right back at you, buddy. Absolutely.
Thank you. It would like, yeah,
Yeah,
I
always
would.
fun to chat and hang out over some video games.
It's always a good time, and like I Smacketh, one of the greatest random select players you will ever see. He could just play any game in random select, and it's a joyful time. You know, you
For our
see
listeners
characters...
who aren't keeping score, Dave is Smacketh online. And
Sorry,
I am Scare, quotes,
I
online.
And I am No Limit T, because I like green tea.
Just for our audience to be aware of that. That's all.
I do worry when people see No Limit T. I wonder if they see tea and they think it might be as in spilling the tea and gossip and stuff. And really, it's just, I just like green tea.
I like how when you say, I worry about this thing, and whatever you're about to say you're worried about, like, oh, man, no one cares. No one cares. You're fine. Every single time.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Guys, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say, for the Ranking of Kings thing, I mistakenly said it was an allegory for World War II. What it actually was is it's the story. People believe it's related to the colonization of Korea by Japan between 1910 to 1945. There was a really interesting Tumblr post which details a lot of it. It like goes into detail about like how it could be an allegory for that. Again, it sucks because like I was really upset when I found this out, but at the same time, not taking away from the rest of the series, I feel like this whole history of this like thing could have been taken out completely.
Yeah. Okay.
And it would have made no difference to the story. But yeah, it's just wanted to say apologies. It's not World War II. It's the colonization of South Korea.
Good on you for doing your due diligence on that front.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention because I was half remembering it, and I'm like, yeah, this is actually quite important. I need to know.
Hello, it is me interrupting your podcast just one more time, but this is for a good one. If you don't know, we have a Patreon, and none of this can be done without the help of our lovely Patreon supporters. They are, in no order in particular, David Rivera, God of Grunts, Aid, JP, William Kirk, and Robert Rostant, which a few of them are on this podcast as you're listening to right now. So thank you to those folks that have invested in the Zero Dot Podcast. We appreciate all your support. Without you, we couldn't have made this possible. And that's our show here at the Zero Dot Podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure to talk to my good friends Robert and David. Thanks so much for kind of level setting with me what empathy means in this digital age. Until next time, you know where to find us, thezerodotpodcast.com. We are available in all places where podcasts are, including YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts, and even more from there on in. I'm Sam. This has been Robert. This is David. Until next time, cheers.